Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys at Magic. This is Hunter and Steven. Say what up, Steven.
What's up, Steven?
We are back. This time we're taking a look at Hosts of Mordor. That is the Precon Commander deck from the newest set, Lord of the Ring, Tales of Middle-earth. Steven, you had the opportunity to go ahead and take this deck in a direction that which you wanted to take it. I am interested to see what you did, but first and foremost, talk a little bit about the deck. Talk about the face commander. What are you doing with it?
Yeah, so pretty much, this is Grixis good stuff. It took me a while to kind of figure out what theme I wanted to go with and if I wanted to stick with Sauron, Lord of the Rings. But I ended up sticking with him. I think he's going to be the lord of this deck.
All right.
So we're just going to be Reanimator, which is going to be really fun because I put a lot of fun things in the deck for that reason. But let's talk about Sauron a little bit more. Sauron, Lord of the Rings. It is 5, a blue, a black, and a red for a 9/9 legendary creature avatar horror. When you cast him, you amass Orcs 5, you mill 5 cards, and then you return a creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. It has trample, and then whenever a commander an opponent controls dies, the ring tempts you. Don't really care about the trample or the last piece of text. I just really like bringing stuff back from the graveyard.
Hi, who doesn't? When your things die, you hope to get them back.
I did have the option as well to possibly swap out for Saruman, the White Hand. He is 1, a blue, a black, and a red for a 2/5 legendary creature avatar wizard. That's more spell slingery. I didn't really want to do that with this deck. The way that the deck is built, there are a ton of sorceries and instants already in it, which kind of adds to it. But I think that it was just more fun to have these big bad creatures and just do fun stuff that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, without further ado, Steven, let's get into the additions to this deck. I'm curious to see what you've done. What are you adding to make it better?
Yeah, so before we get into the big baddies, let's go over 2 fun creatures. I added Geo Golem. It's a 5 colorless artifact creature golem. It's a 5/3 with trample. Has a little fun ability that whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast your commander from the command zone without paying its mana cost.
This seems perfect for a really high CMC commander, especially like the one we're running today.
Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest with you, it was when I saw Sauron, I was like, I need Geo Golem in the deck. To be honest with you, it's still probably one of the cheaper cards I added. It's only like about 21 cents, which is pretty crazy. But main reason why I added it is because anger comes in the precon already. And with us putting stuff into our graveyard, I think Geode Golem coming down, having haste because anger's in the graveyard, and just swinging and getting Sauron possibly a little bit earlier is going to be nuts.
Yeah, you get this down early, it's going to be really good for you.
Mm-hmm. And then just for some ramping fun, just because obviously we are in a high CMC deck, I added Ornithopter of Paradise. 2 colorless for an artifact creature Thopter. It's a 0/2 with flying, and you can tap it, and you can add 1 mana of any color.
Yeah, great little mana dork.
All right, the next 3 creatures I want to talk about are going to be our little Reanimator pack, I guess you could say. First one up is going to be Olivia Crimson Bride, 4 colorless, a black and a red. Legendary creature Vampire Noble. She's a 3/4 with flying and haste, which is always good to see, especially with this next ability. Whenever she attacks, you return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains when you don't control a legendary vampire, exile this creature. Obviously, you do have that negative stat there where once Olivia dies, or if you don't have a legendary vampire, that creature's gone, but oh well, you know.
You did the thing.
You did the thing. But just in case that's not enough, we also added Ancient Brass Dragon. 5 colorless and 2 black for a creature Elder Dragon. This is a 7/6 with flying. Whenever it attacks and deals combat damage to a player, you roll a d20. When you do, put any number of target creature cards with total mana value X or less from graveyards onto the battlefield under your control, where X is the result. So, fun card, can target our graveyard, can target other people's graveyards. And like I was talking about earlier, with anger in the graveyard and this coming down and just being able to swing the same turn, it's going to be kind of aggressive. And then lastly, for the Reanimator pack, I did add Shieldred Whispering one because if we weren't hate-bearing enough, here we are. This is 5 colorless and 2 black for a legendary creature Praetor, 6/6 with Swamp Walk. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, but on your opponent's upkeeps, they have to sacrifice a creature.
Yeah, it's a super mean original Shieldred. I'll tell you what. All three of these cards, big baddie reanimators, they're terrifying.
Well, I mean, the fun part is what's what they're gonna be reanimating. So let's get into two fun creatures that I kind of wanted to add to reanimate. I do have Overseer of the Dam. This is 5 colorless and 2 black for a creature demon. It's a 5/5 with flying. Whenever it ETBs, you destroy target creature. And then the fun part is this is already on the battlefield, so its second ability will trigger whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies. Create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. So I'm trying to get a little bit of a benefit from it ETBing, and also if you guys destroy each other's creatures. And the last creature I added is Sepulchral Primordial. This is 5 colorless and 2 black for a creature avatar. It's a 5/4 with Intimidate. It also says whenever it enters the battlefield for each opponent, you may put up to one target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So we bring this from our graveyard or we cast this and we get to have some fun with your graveyards.
Yeah, these two are pretty mean. I don't look forward to seeing these on the field.
Yep, yep. The fun doesn't end there. I'm not going to lie to you.
All right. Well, are those all the creatures we're adding?
Yep, those were all the creatures.
Okay, so let's move on to the sorcery package you're throwing in here. What are we getting?
Yep. So the first one I want to talk about, I do want to talk about alone because it is such a fun card. It is seeing a lot of play in standard right now. I did add Breach the Multiverse. This is 5 colorless and 2 black. For a sorcery, each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. Obviously, that last piece of text is just flavor for us, but just literally ripping through graveyards right now.
Casting things for free is always fun, especially when
Hmm.
they're coming from the grave.
Yep, and we're really just trying to get hopefully the big baddies in your decks as well as ours. And then the last 3 sorceries I added, I did put Buried Alive into the deck because you can't have a Reanimator deck without putting stuff in your graveyard. So Buried Alive, 2 colorless and a black. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Always a good one, always a fun one. And then obviously we want to grab those creature cards, so I did add Victimize. This is 2 colorless and a black. Choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard, sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. So obviously with our creatures having some ETB effects, this will be pretty fun. Also with the fact that this deck does kind of revolve around amassing orc armies, you will always pretty much have some fodder for that, sacrifice. And then lastly, I added Stitch Together. This is a fun old card. This is 2 black. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. It also has Threshold. Return that card from the graveyard to the battlefield instead if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard. Funny enough, we are trying to mill ourselves a little bit, and I think we'll hit that threshold.
Yeah, I think you will too. Your commander already puts in a couple cards to help that.
Yep. Yeah, this is a fun little reanimator package. I like it.
I do too. Moving on to the instance. What are we throwing in here?
Well, did want to throw in one last card to put stuff into the graveyard, so I did add in Tomb, which is an instant. This is 1 black. Search your library for a card. Put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Classic. Any kind of deck that you want stuff in your graveyard, I feel like this is an auto include. Moving on to the other instance I added, obviously this is a pretty hefty deck when it comes to CMC, like we were talking about earlier. So I added 2 rituals. I added Cabal Ritual and Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual is 1 black, and it adds 3 black to your mana pool. Cabal Ritual does the same, except that it's 1 colorless and a black. It adds 3 black to your mana pool, but it also has Threshold. So, like I said, we're probably going to have 7 or more cards when we're casting this. This will add 5 mana to your mana pool at that time.
Yeah. High CMC commanders need that extra mana, and these do a perfect job.
Yep, and then just in case, we don't want to cast our commander just yet, we can always use that mana to cast any of the big baddies we have in the deck. And the last 2 instances I added here are going to be Big Score and Unexpected Windfall because obviously we're trying to put some cards into our graveyard. Let's go ahead and discard some stuff. So Big Score is 3 colorless and a red. As an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card. You draw 2 cards and create 2 treasure tokens. And then Unexpected Windfall, 2 colorless, 2 red. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you discard a card and you draw 2 cards and you create 2 treasure tokens. So really fun because it kind of plays with the deck very well, and then also adding those treasure tokens is extremely helpful.
Yeah, these two are perfect for a Reanimator deck. They do the exact same thing. Make some treasure, draw some cards, throw away some cards, get your graveyard going. Checks all the boxes. But moving past the instants and sorceries, it looks like we have some enchantments here. Tell me a little bit more about those.
Yeah, so the enchantment package I thought was going to be really fun for this. I'm just going to jump right into it. I added Animate Dead because obviously we are reanimating. This is one colorless and a black for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature card in a graveyard. It says when Animate Dead enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield, it loses enchant creature card in a graveyard. It gains enchant creature put onto the battlefield with Animate Dead. Return enchanted creature card onto the battlefield under your control and attach Animate Dead to it. When Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, that creature's controller sacrifices it. It also says enchanted creature gets -1, -0. Just a fun one. Really just trying to, I mean, you can grab anything you want.
Yeah, it's a really good Reanimator.
hmm but just in case, you don't have any of these cards, you always have Whip of Erebos. This is 2 colorless and 2 black for a legendary enchantment artifact. Creatures you control have lifelink, which is always fun, especially when we're swinging in with some big baddies. But the fun part is you can pay 2 and 2 black. You can tap it. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. If it would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. Whip of Erebos, always a good addition. I also added Spiteful Banditry. When we were going over spoiler season and I saw this card, I immediately fell in love. Uh, it really reminded me of Black Market. Now, granted, it's not as good as Black Market, but it does create you a treasure token when something dies, although it only happens once each turn. But for X and 2 red, when it enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to each creature. And then whenever one or more creatures your opponents control die, you create a treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. So a really fun card, kind of like a pseudo board wipe to a certain extent, but really just trying to get those treasures, even when you guys are destroying each other's creatures. And lastly, probably my favorite card in Magic, especially recently playing a lot more Gruul. I did add Sneak Attack. This is 3 in a red for an enchantment. You can pay a red, and you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Sacrifice the creature at the beginning of the next end step. Uh, I mean, to be quite honest with you, we still get the ETB if it has an ETB effect. We get to swing in with it. So most of the time we have a combat trigger, and then we sacrifice it, and then we bring it back with a reanimation effect. Rinse and repeat, baby.
Yeah, Sneak Attack plus Reanimator is really dumb. You're never going to be casting these high cost creatures.
No, no, and that's why I love this card.
All right, I like all those additions. Did you do anything to the mana base?
I sure did. So I did add 3 land cards. I added Training Center, I added Luxury Suite, and Barad Dur. Training Center enters the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. You can tap it for a blue or a red. Luxury Suite is the same thing, but you can tap it for a black and a red. And then obviously, since we have kind of like a orc army thing going on, Barad-dûr enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary creature. You can tap it for a black, or you can pay XX black, tap it, amass orc X, activate only if a creature died this turn. So if we do need fodder or we do need an army and we want to make it kind of big, Barad-dûr is there for us.
Yeah, you keep making the army bigger. I like it. Is that all of the additions?
That is all the additions, my friend.
All right, your deck looks pretty mean. I do not look forward to playing it. But let's move on to the removals. It is the sad part of the video where we have to say goodbye to some of this really cool art. Steven, what are we removing?
Yeah, so like you said, I mean, this is probably my least favorite part, obviously, because we did add some great cards, so we had to get rid of some cards. Some great, some not so great. First card I'm getting rid of is Corsairs of Umbar. This is 3 generic and a blue for a creature human pirate. It's a 3/3. You can pay some mana essentially here, make it unblockable, and then when it deals combat damage, you amass Orcs 3. I mean, I like the fact that I can, put 3 +1/+1 counters on an army, but I wasn't really what I kind of wanted to do. Obviously, I'm trying to make these big creatures do big things, and this wasn't really there for me. Also got rid of Shelob Dreadweaver. This is 3 and a black for a legendary creature Spider Demon. It's a 3/3. This one I was not that excited to, toss out of the deck just because I think anytime you have a card on the field that whenever a creature dies, it exiles it instead is really good. But its second piece of text says any card exiled with it, you can pay 2 and a black, and you can put it back in the owner's graveyard just to put 2+1/+1 counters on this and then draw a card. So that was kind of the reason for getting rid of that one. Also, it's a spider with no reach. That's not fun at all. Also got rid of Troll of Khazad-dûm. This is 5 and a black for a creature troll. It's a 6/5. It can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. It's got Swamp Cycling 1. No. That was the first cut. I'll be dead honest with you. That was super easy.
Just a big beater.
I mean, yeah, just a massive beater. But no. Also got rid of Inferno Titan. This is 4 and 2 red for a creature giant. 6/6. You can pay a red and give it +1/+0 until end of turn. That's a cool effect. Whatever. I mean, the main effect you're kind of looking for TB or when it attacks. I don't know. This card was really cool back in the day, but at this point, I think it's kind of boring. Next on the chopping block, we got the Mouth of Sauron. This is 3, a blue and black for a legendary creature, Human Advisor. It's a 3/4. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target player mills 3 cards. Then you amass Orcs X, where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in that player's graveyard. This one was kind of tough, not going to lie to you. Main reason for getting rid of this card is obviously we do have some reanimation for ETBs, but at the end of the day, do we really want to waste an ETB for this? Do we want to waste all that reanimation? Do we want to pay 8 mana with our commander to bring this back? No. And the last creature I got rid of is Voracious Fell Beast. It is 4 and 2 black for a creature Drake Beast. It's a 4/4 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Create a food token for each creature sacrificed this way. I don't care about the food tokens for this deck, so that didn't really bother me. We have Merciless Executioner in the deck already, so we have some ways for opponents to be sacrificing stuff, and it's way cheaper than 6 mana.
Sometimes you get the big stuff to make room for the big stuff, and I think you're right. The stuff that you're adding that's big for a reanimation target do seem a bit better than these ones.
Thank you.
So, we did add some sorceries into the deck. What are some sorceries that you had to cut to make room?
Yep, so first one on the chopping block, I got rid of Boon of the Wishgiver. This is 4, 2 blue. You draw 4 cards, or it has Cycling 1. I'm not saying that the deck doesn't have enough card draw, but it's got a decent amount to where I don't want to pay 6 mana. Also got rid of Decree of Pain. This is 6 and 2 black. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. It has Cycling 3 and 2 black. And when you cycle it, it gives all creatures -2/-2 until end of turn. I don't like the fact that it gives all creatures -2/-2, just in case we have some stuff that might die. I'm also not a fan of paying 8 mana for a board wipe to draw hopefully a lot of cards, depending on what we're doing. But I just think that an 8 mana board wipe's a little aggressive. Got rid of Subjugate the Hobbits. This is 5 and 2 blue. This one was kind of tough to get rid of. This is gain control of each non-commander creature with mana value 3 or less. Main reason why I got rid of this is how often do people play a lot of 3 or less? I don't, at least not in this deck. But if I was going to put a card back in, it'd probably be this one. Also got rid of Deep Analysis. This is 3 and a blue. Target player draws 2 cards. It has Flashback for 1 and a blue, and you pay 3 life. Again, I'm not paying 4 mana to draw 2 cards. I don't care about the Flashback. Got rid of Languish. This is 2 and 2 black. All creatures get -4/-4 until end of turn. Again, I feel like nowadays everyone's pumping their creatures. Hunter, I saw your Rohan deck. I don't even think this would touch your Rohan deck, so I just got rid of it. I was like, it's not going to do anything anyways. Treason of Isengard is up next to be cut. We got 2 and a blue. Put up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard onto the top of your library. You can amass Orcs 2 right after. The amass Orcs 2 is kind of like the fun part there. The target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library is fun too. There are some other cards that do this for us, so I kind of got rid of this one. And the last sorcery I'm getting rid of is Wake the Dragon. This is 4 and a black and a red. Create a 6/6 black and red dragon creature token with flying, menace, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, gain control of target artifact that player controls. It also has flashback 6, a black and a red. So this one was a kind of a fun one. I don't know. I mean, just in case Anger's not in the graveyard and I can't give this haste off the start, I mean, just to possibly have this on the field and hopefully it stays on the field long enough for it to swing to gain control of a target artifact. A lot of ifs. A lot of ifs here.
It's a lot of ifs. It doesn't help with your reanimator at all. It's just a weird inclusion, and it costs a bit much for a sorcery. It's not instant speed. It's weird. But I can understand why you took out all the rest of the sorceries as well. They all seem a bit slow or a bit not as much as the ones you're putting in. Moving on to the instant part. We know you added some. Are you taking any out?
Oh, yeah. Got rid of Bitter Downfall. This is 3 and a black. This spell does cost 3 less to cast if it targets a creature that was already dealt damage this turn. And then it says destroy target creature. Its controller loses 2 life. There are way better cards that do this, and there's actually a card that does it better for cheaper. Uh, this was just kind of stupid. So immediately when I saw it, I was like, I need it gone. Also got rid of Forbidden Alchemy. This is 2 and a blue. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. It has flashback for 6 and a black. With enough card draw in this deck and us being able to pick and choose with certain cards that we've added what I want to put in my graveyard, I didn't really find a point in this.
That flashback cost is aggressive, but I can see why it's been cut. I know you didn't add any artifacts into the deck originally, but it looks like you're taking some out. What are these?
Yep, so I went ahead and got rid of Basalt Monolith. This is 3 for an artifact that does not untap during your untap step. You can tap it to add 3 colorless, which is always good, and then you can pay 3 and untap Basalt Monolith. We're not running any combos with any crazy infinite mana where we're untapping and tapping and untapping and tapping this. So I was just like, let's just go ahead and get rid of this. I don't need an artifact that's just going to sit on the battlefield tap the entire game. I also got rid of Worn Power Stone. This is 3 for a artifact that comes in tapped. And then you got to wait to access that beautiful 2 mana.
Yeah, Basalt Monolith and Worn Power Stone. They're really slow mana rocks. It really sucks if you can't get that Basalt Monolith untapped. It usually goes off with a combo, and you're not running a combo in this deck to do that, so very easy to see why you took these out. How about any other permanent spells? Are we taking anything else out?
Yes, I got rid of Revenge of the Ravens. This is 3 and a black. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. For 4 mana, I'd rather do anything else. I'll be dead honest with you.
Yeah, and with some of that big creatures on the board that you're going to be reanimating, it's not very likely a player is going to attack into those.
Yep.
And to wrap things up, the mana base was changed a little bit. Tell me what you're doing with the lands.
Well, for all of our viewers at home, you know me very well, and you know I will cut lands to make room for better cards. So if you did notice, I did add 3 lands and I got rid of 5. So there are 2 lands cut. But don't fret too much. We are still at a very healthy 36 lands in this deck. But I did get rid of Frostboil Snarl. I don't want to have to worry about revealing anything for this to come in untapped. And then I did the same thing for Foreboding Ruins. I also got rid of Field of Ruin. Field of Ruin's really a great card. I'm just not a big fan of Field of Ruin in any EDH deck, just because for me to destroy 1 land and then each opponent searches for a basic land, that's not fun for me.
Yeah, if I'm at the table and I see you destroy someone else's land, and I'm like, yes, good job for destroying their land, and thank you for giving me one.
hmm Yeah, not about that whatsoever. But I also did get rid of 2 islands. The deck, I did get rid of a lot of blue cards, and I didn't really add any, so it kind of made sense to cut 2 basic islands. I didn't really need them.
That makes sense to me, man. I see where all these lands are taken out. Is that going to do it for your upgrade?
Hunter, that is going to do it for my upgrade.
All right. So here is the question. We gave you $100 to make this deck better. Tell me, what was the entire price of all the additions to this deck?
Hunter, I am glad to say that I used all $100. And then I took $2 out of my bank account along with 9 cents.
So 102 and 9 cents, huh?
102 and 9 cents at the time of this recording.
I will give it to you. $2 extra is not that much. I do like all of the changes you made to this deck. Steven, before we wrap things up, I just wanted to know, what do you think about the commander overall and how the deck runs?
When I first saw this deck, Hunter, and I saw that I was the one upgrading it, I couldn't get past the fact that this is a 8 mana commander. Granted, it's a 9/9 with trample and it does some fun stuff. And it was a little off-putting at first, but seeing the fun things that you can add to it. I've never really done Grixis good stuff and reanimation, so when I was able to upgrade this, I think it actually kind of like made me, a little bit more excited for this kind of color combo. This is going to be a really fun deck for anyone that wants to do anything fun for the graveyard, whether it's your graveyard or your opponent's graveyard. I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, Sauron looks super mean. I'm kind of nervous about playing up against it when we do our pre-con battle. And yeah, I'm very, very scared.
Yeah, I mean, and the best part about this is like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but even though it is 8 mana, you can counter this if you want. The effects on cast.
Yeah, those cast triggers are always nice. But that's going to do it for us. If you guys wanted to see Steven's entire deck list, check the description down below where you'll find the link to our Moxfield account. Go ahead and playtest the deck on Moxfield right there. You can do so. Leave a comment down below letting us know what you thought of this deck. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Did you think there was something that needed to be added that we missed? We love reading all the comments. Also, like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. What are you doing? You're going to miss out on all the cool content moving forward. And in the description, you'll also find links to our Instagram, our Twitter, and our TikTok. That's at Guys at Magic for each one. Follow us along. Don't miss out any other stuff. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Later.